Hi, it's Marianne from Thrive Admin Services, and in this video I'm going to be sharing my 3 top tips for working with tables in Microsoft Word. So in this video we're going to cover how to make your text spaced really neatly and evenly in a professional and easy to use way inside your table. I'm going to show you how you can work with rows when the text requires it to split across a page and how you can neaten that up and make your life much easier. And finally, I'm going to show you how you can make your header row repeat across pages when you've got one of those larger tables that moves from page to page. So let's get started. So to start with, I've created a table using this is just my Thrive table, formatted in my colors. And then what I've got is I've set it up with 3 columns and several rows, and I've popped some Latin filler text in so you can see how it sits in the different cells. So to start with, typically when you draw a table and you don't have a particular format in mind, it will have the spacing will sit at 0, 0. So on your layout tab, it will sit as 0 and 0. And you can see what it's done is it's compressed all of the rows so that they sit exactly at the top of your font and exactly at the bottom of your font. And what it means is that it looks quite cramped. It can look rushed and a bit haphazard, and it can actually be really difficult to read. So what I tend to do is I'll take a heading row and I will actually change that and I'll make that 6. So it really pops. And you can see what we've done is we've built some breathing space around the outline. Then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go through the rest of the table here, except for these last 2 lines. And I'm going to set mine at 4 point before and 4 point after. And you can set it to whatever you like. And you can see straight away, yes, it's made the table longer, but what it's actually done is it's given us that breathing space around the text. So you can see we've obviously got our margins that's set where it moves across the cell, but what we're trying to do is actually give ourselves see the breathing space or white space around the text. And as an example, what I've done is I've left these 2 blank at the bottom. So this row here has 0 point, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make that exactly the same as the rest. I'm going to make that a 4 point. And you can see the difference in the size of the cell even without text in it. And so automatically it's just giving your eye, it makes your eye a little bit, makes it easier for your eye, to follow and see the text in the cell instead of being distracted by the border around it. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you how you can align your table so that it always sits and fills the page. So sometimes you'll have seen a document and the table has obviously been aligned to the left and it doesn't fill up, or it looks really squished because it hasn't been set out properly. So I'm going to show you in this section, I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can adjust and quickly and easily adjust the layout of your table so that it's quite easy to read and it fits the space quite nicely. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the whole table by selecting the little compass points at the top here, and you'll see it opens up my 2 table options, table design and layout, in my menu bar, in my ribbon. I'm going to go to layout, and in layout is where we can see the properties of the table, and we can edit and amend it and set the spacing and bits and pieces for the rows. What we're actually going to work with is we're going to work with this Autofit option. So Autofit has a drop down and it gives you 3 different options. You can auto-fit it to the contents, and what that does is it will fit it to the size of the actual information within the cells. So we do that. Or you can auto-fit it to the window. And if you auto fit to the window, it's going to fit it from margin to margin for your page. So I'm going to do auto fit window. And you can see at the moment my page is set up as a landscape option. What happens is if I changed the layout of my page to portrait, you can see it's changed so if I now click on the table again and we go back to layout, if I was to make that at fixed column width, and we turn it back into a landscape one, see what it's done? It's held the same column width from the portrait page to the landscape page, and now I have all of this weird white space over here. So if you were needing to do that, what I would do then, why is it not letting me pick up? Just want to grab the whole table, there we go, and go back to layout. And if we change that on Autofit to Autofit window, you can see it's now evenly spread my columns so that it fills the margin. So I've still got plenty of white space around the table, but it now is much more aesthetically pleasing. It sits centered on the page, and it's spread those columns out as well, which is handy when you've got quite a lot of text, or if you've got images in there, it gives you a little bit more room to play with. The other thing that you can do with your spacing is you can manually adjust your columns, of course, so depending on what you want. So you might say, I'm definitely never going to have anything in this column that's massive, so this might be sort of a in progress complete, sort of a status, so you know that it's really never going to be particularly long. So I'll take these ones out just so that they're not quite so obvious. So I'll take those out, and you can see now that what it's done is if I revert this page now, if I go layout and go orientation and go back to portrait, it's kept the sort of the dimensions or the proportions of the columns, but it has changed them to suit the portrait layout. So by changing the layout and by keeping your table at an auto fit for window, it means it's always going to fit the window of the page. It's always going to sit within those margin boundaries, so that it will automatically sort itself out for you. The other way that you can play around with the layout and the alignment of your table is to actually manually adjust the table itself. So instead of using those auto fit options, we know that you can move these internally and set them up, but you can actually also move the external edges as well. So just by clicking on one of the outlines or the borders, any of those borders that you move, you can then adjust manually if you're looking for a particular look, or a really good example would be if you are trying to make it fit so that you could then insert an image here, or you might have a particular information on in your header and footer down this side that you've put in that you don't want to overlay into the table. A good example would be if you've set a watermark in your page in the header and footer, and you don't want it to be obscured, or you don't want your table to have the distraction of having that watermark overlaid. So you can do that by pulling, just clicking and holding down the mouse and then clicking and pulling your table. You can also then pull it further out, so if you want it to be wider than the standard margins, which you can sometimes prefer to do, particularly if you were printing it to a PDF, or you were only going to be working with this as a screen-based version. It's never going to be printed, and there's no risk that anything would be cut off at the sides. And the last tip I'm going to share with you in this video is how you can repeat your header row if your table splits and moves into another page. So this often happens, particularly in Word. People have all sorts of trouble with this, and it's quite annoying. So you've got a table and you've got loads of text, you're really happy with it, but you've got this problem. So you can see we've got two issues here that we're going to resolve. We've got this particular row that actually is broken across two pages, and then when we get to our second page, if someone just prints that page off because it's got the specific section or information they need, they don't have the headings, so they don't know instinctively what each column is for. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to set this table so that this won't happen. So what we need to do is make it so that the table properties are that a row cannot be broken across two pages. And that's what this is. This is a broken row. So to fix that, we're going to actually work with the whole table. Excuse me. So we click the little arrow and then we go layout, and properties. The alternative you can do is you can right click on your mouse from the little star, the little compass points, and you can go table properties. It will open exactly the same window. What we're looking at here is all of the detail about the size and the rules around your table. And we're actually going to look at the row. So there are several sections. We can deal with the table as a whole. We can deal with particular rows or row rules, column rules, specific cell rules, and then there's an alternate text which is for descriptions of what's in the table. So we're going to work with the row section, and you can see there are two options here. So the options are that you can allow the row to be broken across pages, and it will naturally or automatically, when you create a table, it will tick it as approved to do. So we're going to untick that and hit OK. Now what you'll see is that we've now got all of this white space because this whole row has to be kept together. All right. So for some tables, it's not a problem to have broken rows because you may have rows that are so big it's impossible for it to fit all on one page. Sometimes if you've got a whole process section or particular steps in a process, it can just be too big. So there are times where breaking it across pages is appropriate. The other thing we're going to do is we're actually going to set it so that this heading appears here as well without us having to copy it. So what you'll often see people do is they will copy and then they will insert row above and paste, and they've suddenly put this weird row in that when you play around with the table it just doesn't work anymore. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to set this up as the heading row. So we can do it in two ways. We can go this way into our table properties, or we can go up here. And again, we're looking at the row. We have to have the row we want to use as the header highlighted, and then we tick this one, which is repeat as header row. It's really straightforward when you think about it. It's telling you exactly what you want it to do. And OK. And now you'll see when we scroll down, this is here. So it means if you've got a table that works across maybe 4 or 5 pages, and when you come to print it off, or if someone needs section they might only need two rows out of the table to be relevant to an activity they need to do, or an appointment they need to go to, whatever it might be, or they may just like to work off a paper one so they can tick things off. They can print the specific page, but still see those headings so they know exactly what they're working with here. So I hope that's been a really helpful video for you. Working with tables is something that really can be quite frustrating for people. So these little tips make a difference in you being able to create consistent setups and have, if you've got 3 or 4 tables in a document, which does happen, you can make sure that they're consistent in terms of how they sit on the page and how they work across multiple pages. If you have any questions about the content in this video, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can pop a post up in either of the Facebook groups if you're a member of Microsoft Dynamos or Thriving with 365, and I will be able to help you there. You can get in touch with me directly. You can find me hanging out on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn under Thrive Admin Services, and if you send a message through any of those platforms, I will get in touch with you directly. If you are interested in learning more about how you can work with Thrive and some of the ways that I can help you work smarter with your Microsoft 365 business subscription, then check out thriveadmin.com, and I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel so that you're updated every time a new video goes live, so I can help you work smarter sooner. Thank you.